So we're waiting for some other people out there. I want to make sure that in building wealth and getting out of debt, you got to understand debt, good debt and bad debt. So I'm hitting these things. These money schools are posted on my steveburtonsmoneyschool.com website, and you can watch them at any time. The one that you're going to see here tonight, the Money School 301, that will be starting in just a couple minutes, will be there as well. But make sure you go back and start studying and how money functions. When you watch that online, you'll see it like I'm saying it here now. You'll see some slides. You'll hear me talking, and I'll be talking about good debt and bad debt. I'll be talking about how to get rid of the bad debt, how to optimize the good forms of debt out there. I'm talking to people about opportunity cost. People always wait too long to pay off their debt. I did this myself for years. You want to get out of debt? I'm going to show you this slide right here about opportunity cost, because this is going to go into the Money School 301 as well. See, this couple came in and they had about $700 a month in stuff, credit cards, student loans, things that I typically call mostly bad debt here. The student loan, you can make a case if they hadn't gotten the student loan, they wouldn't have earned as much money in their career. So, but this is probably a student loan for their child, not for them. $700 a month, $8,400 a year. Well, what they forget about, if they're a little bit younger and they still got 30 years to go, that $700 a month, $8,400 a year, if they had not spent that, or they'd gotten rid of that debt rapidly instead of letting it linger, and now that money could go into an account earning a rate of return, over the course of 30 years, you can see that it could add up to be $849,000. It's a pretty sizable chunk of money. I just don't want you to ever forget that right there. And again, you're just joining us, and some people are still logging on. These other Money School classes are always posted on. If I have time, I'll bring up the Money School website so you can check it out. Now I want to switch over to what I call Money School 301. It's where we're going to start about tonight. I have many people that come in, people still calling in trying to get into this thing. I have many people that come in to see me. Some have very little income. Some have lots of income. Some have, a little debt, some have a lot of debt. But what I find with most of us is that even as a business owner, or even if you're running a business for someone else, in your business, in your job, you have to look. You have to look and make a profit for that company every month, and they're looking at a balance sheet. So I started asking clients recently. I had a couple come in, and the gentleman actually runs a pretty good-sized business for someone else. And I asked him, I said, how often in your business do you run a profit and loss statement? He goes, I have to know where we're at all the time. I have to know how much people owe us. I have to know how much we owe other people. I've got to know what our cash flow is. I've got to see and track whether it was more this month than last month. And I've got to make sure it's more this year or better this year. I hope it is better this year than was last year. I said, well, that's great. It sounds like it takes up a little bit of your time. I said, you've got to know that for your business, but do you know it for your own life? And I saw the couple look at each other and go, we don't never sit down and talk about our own money. And I also I informed them, you know what, when you're making better income, you don't have to look and manage every penny. You don't have to take a close eyeball at it. So tonight I'm going to teach you how and suggest to you what you should do to become the CEO of your own life. And if you do these things, people always associate these kinds of conversations with sacrifice. The only thing I'm going to sacrifice is the bank, because I'm going to get rid of them, keep the best loans in place, optimize my cash flow. In my life, I'm not going to be sacrificing. I'm actually going to have more money to go out and have a nicer life now, but you'll also end up with a much better life into the future. I'm going to talk about a couple things. I asked this couple, and I asked this of you. If you're single, then you're your own board of directors. If you're a married couple, then it's the two of you, because you need to sit down once a month. Pick a date. Is it the 1st of the month? Is it the 15th of the month? You need to sit down and you need to have a budget. Major corporations have a budget. You got to sit down and know where you're at. How can you be efficient with your money? How can you be focused with your money? How can you eliminate waste if you don't know where you're at? And you can't know where it's at if you don't sit down and take a look at it. You got to look over your checkbook register. Do you use QuickBooks? I like those types of programs because it's easy to enter in, and now you know where the money's going. You see where it's going, and you sit down with the month. I also remind people that you need to sit down, and you need to, not without, if you're married, no fighting, no arguing. This is a meeting of getting everybody on the same page. And if you're a married couple and you won't do this, and only one of you is focused on making your life better, then it's going to be difficult. It's not that it's impossible. It just becomes harder than had you not, if you've both been on the same page. I ask you, one, you got to get a budget. Two, you got to write down where the money's going. Businesses can't come back in. If they have an employee that they gave some money, that they sent on a trip, when they come back, they have to produce receipts to make sure that that money's accounted for. Every penny. Doesn't mean every penny was spent wisely. Doesn't mean they gave them the per diem and gave them too much money. It just means that they have to keep track of it. You won't always do the wisest things with your money. Neither do I. Sometimes I waste too much of it. But it's not until I sit down the following month and go, whoa, I spent too much money on that. Well, if I didn't pay attention to it, it would just kind of go out the door, and sometimes it goes out the door enough it becomes a problem, meaning I don't have enough money because I didn't know where the waste was. I also ask people all the time, if you're running your life like a business, if you have a budget every month, if you're watching where the money's going, you think, and most people, I know I can hear the wheel spin in some people's heads. Well, that sounds like too much work. It's not really work at all. It's what you got to do if you want to become efficient like a business. I asked that client that I was telling you about earlier, I asked them if they have a profit and loss statement. I asked them if they had a budget. They make pretty good money, so they didn't have a budget. They kind of go, well, we got more money coming in than going out. We put some money to the side, and where the other money goes, it just goes. I said, well, I guess that's a good answer, but the more money you make, the easier it is for you to become inefficient with the money. It's more opportunity for you to waste the money because you have a surplus of money, so it's easier to become inefficient. My point there is that if your things get tight or there's insufficient or not enough income, then you'll get focused. When's that going to be? It's going to be in your retirement years and when you have to live off less. If it's going to mean this, taking on a ton of debt because you didn't plan ahead and now you got to pay for and take out student loans for your kids and pay for that debt over the next 20 or 30 years, jamming up your future retirement plans, we need to have an idea. But I also asked that couple, what was your net profit last month? They kind of looked at each other, what? What was your net profit last month? Did you make money last month? Did you lose money last month? Well, if you don't know what your net profit is, how do you know what you need to do with the money? If you have a net profit and it's a surplus and you don't have a game plan for that money, guess what happens? You start spending it because it's in your checking account. You didn't have an earmark for something. You just kind of let it meander and do what it's going to do. Hey, let's go out to eat. We got some money in our checking account. Hey, let's go on another vacation because we got extra money. Well, sometimes when you have a net profit, you sit down and look at, after all your bills are paid, you serviced the debt, you've entertained yourself, you fed yourself, you did what you had to do to live your life. How much more money did you have this month than last month? Did you have more left over or less left over? If you had less left over than you did the previous month, then what was the problem? Well, we had to put some tires on the car. Okay, that's logical, but that won't happen every month. Let's keep an eye on that. We had to have the tires on the car, so we got that. But did we have to, in that case, take money out of savings to pay for those tires, or did we have to put it on a credit card? If we had to put it on a credit card, what do we got to do to pay the credit card off quickly? It might go back to Money School 101, by the way. If you took it out of savings to buy the tires, then now I've got to replenish and take some of this profit this month from the profit that I made last month and now push it aside and replenish in my savings account what I depleted to buy the tires, the hot water heater, or whatever for the kids. So if I had a profit this month, and if I have a surplus, if I've got my rainy day account figured out, if I got plenty of money in my rainy day account to handle any kind of emergencies that come up over the next few months or so, then should I take this increased profit and push it off into my long-term accounts, my retirement accounts? Should I take this increasing amount and apply it as an extra principal payment on my mortgage? So we need to take a look at these things, and I will tell you, every month, you should know what your profit or loss was, and you should strive, and you should compare this profit this month with last month's, and then with last year's, to make sure that you're on track. Once you get this started, it's not that difficult. You take 15 minutes a month. It's the recording of it that takes a little bit of time, but once you get into the habit of it, there's phone apps that will help you out with this. Again, there's QuickBooks. There's our own Wealth Accelerator that will help you out. It's the tracking of where your money goes. Do you write it down? Do you know where your money goes? I talked about that in Money School 101 and 201. Where does your money go? If you got a pocket full of money and you pull up at the, you just throw the money down. Well, Steve, I didn't put it on a credit card. I just paid cash for it. Well, that doesn't mean you've used the money wisely. It just means you had a pocket full of cash and you could go buy. It just doesn't mean, again, the purchases sometimes, if you have cash, are easy to come by. So you have to have a profit and loss. Set down once a month your board of directors. Honey, we're going to have a board of directors meeting. If you're single, hey, come on, we're going to have it. You're talking to yourself here. Watch how you do that. But you're going to sit down and you're going to meet. And you're going to have a formalized meeting like you're the CEO. And you're calling into order. Where's our money going? It sounds like it's really tough. It's not that hard, guys. Your life will radically change around. And you're going to do it now when you have the opportunity. Or many of you will be forced if you don't plan ahead and don't do this now. Your lifestyle in the future, your retirement in the future, your odds of running out of money will be greatly enhanced if you don't take your money seriously right now. Think of how much money you go out and make and then how much you keep of that. So what's our net profit? And I'm going to show you in a minute in a calculator. If you notice your profit and you put a little bit more and push it off into a retirement account, what it would add up to over the years. You saw in that one example that $700 a month that was going out the door to other people because they weren't focused. That couple probably could have had a strategy to pay off their debt quicker, but why hadn't they? Because they didn't have a game plan. We've got to have a game plan, and it starts with having a budget. It goes on to what's our profit and loss, and it goes to having a board meeting every month. You've got to look at these things. Net profit, again, as I said before, rainy day account. How much money should be in your rainy day account? Some people say 3 months of your income, meaning if you had to have and you lost your paycheck for 3 to 6 months, that rainy day account parked in your money market account, you could tap into. Now, if you have a steady job and you work for the federal government or you know you're going to be there and the odds of you getting laid off are not very great, but you know what? Even if you have a good job, steady job, it's not going anywhere, you want that rainy day account to be set up there for those emergencies of life. You're not worrying about the interest rate on that money. It's in your money market account, savings account. It's just there when you need it for emergency, so you don't have to throw it on a Visa and MasterCard to pay for that emergency. You take monies out of that account, take the next couple months to replenish them so you don't have to pay the bank any interest on those loans. And as I said earlier, B, when you have an increased amount of money coming in, you got a pay raise. You've eliminated a debt. Dedicate and automatically increase some of that going into your retirement accounts. This all becomes easier and clearer once you've done it. If you've never done a profit and loss statement, it sounds intimidating. But there's all kinds of ways to do it out there. Again, look at QuickBooks or something like. There's all kinds of programs. That's just one that we use a lot in our own personal life and our personal business. So where to put that money at? If there's a negative amount, let's go back to that for a minute. If there's a negative amount, why did we have less money this month? Was it an emergency? Yes, it was unforeseen. Maybe you're playing too many rounds of golf. Maybe you went out and entertained yourself so much, but Steve, we like entertaining ourselves. Well, enjoy it now because there'll probably be fewer of those trips in retirement. So identify the problem, and if you didn't know you had a problem, if you didn't have a profit and loss statement, if you didn't have a budget, you didn't know what the problem was. And you say, Steve, this is all common sense. Well, why don't more people do it then? I'm just laying it out here in a game plan for you so that you understand. Some cases, though, you've done all the cutting. Steve, there's no room. We've cut everything out. And I've actually seen people, that's true. Not very many, because I've almost always find some waste and abuse somewhere. But if you need more income in your business, if your business needs to become more profitable and my job is not cutting it, I've worked part-time jobs in the past. I've flipped pizzas, cleaned toilets. I've done other things. I didn't enjoy those things, but my life, my business, as the CEO of my own life, I had to bring in more revenue. If my employer, my full-time employer, didn't offer that to me, then I either need to find a way at that employer to work some extra hours. I needed to find a way to make myself more valuable to that corporation. Or in the short run, if I needed that extra income immediately, maybe I took on a part-time job or I did something. And that's what I did multiple times. And still even today, I have multiple businesses that I own. I'm looking at bringing in more revenue. People go, well, I work 40 hours a week. Well, there's 168 hours in the week. So I would assume that 40 hours, I think 40 hours is part-time, basically. I work 50, 60, 70, even 80 hours a week. I have plenty of time off. I could probably retire now if I wanted to, but I'm not because I enjoy what I'm doing. I'm 58 years old. I have the ability. You're either going to put in the time now or you're going to have to work longer at the end of your career. So I say 40 hours a week will create you an average lifestyle, maybe a pretty good lifestyle. That extra few hours a week allows you more discretionary money for your lifestyle, but more discretionary to put away for the future. Attacking debt, as I said before. If you've not seen those money schools, I would encourage you to go back to those. I'm going to also pull up in a minute. I want to show you some of my calculators of getting on a good track, of what that compounded effect of money would look like if you indeed become the CEO of your own life. You need to review all that stuff. That bad debts needs to go. That for many of you, for millions, tens of millions of Americans, getting rid of the bad stuff. So if you haven't implemented Money School 101, old debt or new debt, old ways to get out of debt or new ways, the Wealth Accelerator, you need to get a game plan right there. Checking up, getting out of debt. Old school is just that snowball effect. Take the lowest debt that you have, attack it with every extra penny, regardless of the interest rate on it. Take the lowest balanced debt, attack it with every extra penny. New school is the Wealth Accelerator, and you can learn about how to use that. Old school, I've talked about that. The mortgage. The mortgage is the largest debt that most of you will have, but worry about that last. Let's get a mortgage master strategy on that last. Why? It's drug out over a longer period of time. You can optimize the interest write-off on your mortgage to allow you to keep more of your paycheck now. That will let you become a better CEO. CEOs have to effectively manage the taxes, and that's where I'm getting ready to go now. Leave the mortgage alone. Get busy funding your retirement accounts. Time's a waste in compounded growth, whether you're 20 years old on this call or 70 or 80 years on this call. Get busy putting money away, eliminating the bad debt, becoming more efficient with your money. The debt, the mortgage, I talk about how big the debt is on the mortgage. It's a big debt. But we can strategically manage this. People go, I want to get rid of that $2,000 a month mortgage payment. I don't want to pay $720,000 for a $500,000 house. And you're always checking the interest rate. That's important, but let's manage the mortgage last. Let me exit out of here really quickly. I'll come back to that in a second. Let me show you something. I was playing around, not on this site. I want to get to one of my software programs. I've got so many software programs. I want to talk about the power of compounding. Being a good CEO of your business, you need to understand this. I was playing around with some numbers earlier, and I had somebody coming in that was putting away about $500 a month. Oh, let me show you this. I started pulling this up earlier. I'll come back to this in a second. This is what our Wealth Accelerator looks like. And here's a quick way for somebody to look at if they have a profit and loss. In this case, they had a bunch of debt. They had paychecks coming in, and they knew every month in the Wealth Accelerator how much money they had left over. And this month, this couple had $1,200 left over. Well, if on a given month that number goes higher, then they knew they have some opportunities to do something positive. If they have something bad going on, then they need to figure out why we have less profit than we did last month or the month before. And then they need to develop a strategy for paying off the debt, as I show you in their credit cards and all the other things. That's on that sheet. But here's what I was getting at right now. Let me come over here. If many of you would have understood the power of compounded growth, that same couple right there, I was showing you that profile, they had about $60,000 in credit cards, car loans, student loans, and I forgot what the other one was, at Home Depot or something like that. It was over $1,100, almost $1,200 a month going out of their pocket. Let's figure that at $14,000 a year. Well, if we project it out, that couple was in their early 40s. Well, over 30 years' time, you go, and they were making good income. They can make those bills, but because they weren't really focused on their finances, that debt was just lingering. But look at over a 30-year period of time, how much money they would have had they taken and got rid of that debt, become a good CEO and eliminate the bad debt and started putting that money away at, say, at a 7% interest rate. Well, you go, Steve, I don't have 30 years to go. Well, how much time you got? Let's go back and let's make this 20 years. So it may not be $1.4 million in 30 years. Maybe you only got 20 years to go. It'd still be an extra $614,000. What happens if you only have 10 years to go? Well, 10 years to go, even more reason to get focused on it. It's still a couple $100,000 in extra money. You know how many people's lives, the average, a median amount that people go into retirement with is about $270,000. You know what the average person needs to go into retirement with? About $750,000, $750,000. Many of you are making the banks rich like I did for years. Now I use their money to create wealth for myself. I use it because I understand it. I operate like a bank, but I operate like a CEO as well. I'm also talk to you about where to put the money. So in that example, I showed the negative effects of carrying debt too long. And you can't be a good CEO. You would fire yourself. If you had somebody else running your finances, would you pay them? Well, I mean, you can't harp on that unless you're a good steward of your money, a good CEO of your money. Know where your profit and loss is. Let me show you for all those guys that are loading up 401ks and IRAs. You're going to hear me talking about this a lot. My next money school, I'm changing course. I'm going to go into taxes because I will tell you, taxes are good. They're high now. But I promise you, they're going higher in the future. Here's why do I need to talk about taxes? See if I pay my taxes. I know you already pay taxes now, but the main concern I've got is not the taxes you're paying now, is there's money in those 401ks and IRAs. Let me show you the threat of higher taxes. Let's say you're successful in your CEO business. You turn your life around or you do better than you're doing today. And you accumulate $1 million in your 401k. Well, hey, not all that money is yours. I had a couple in the other day, and some have no money to put away. This couple had $1 million. And they told me they were in a current 25% tax bracket. So if you can see that, I told them, I said, that $1 million is not all yours. In the federal government's going to want about $260,000 of it. But we live, if you're listening to us in the state of Virginia, our state income tax is about almost 6%. So I'm going to ratchet this thing up. I'm going to try to do it about 31%. So it means now of your $1 million, you're only going to get $690,000 of it. Well, that means the IRS, in this example, I'm including the state taxes. So between the federal and the state, they're going to get about $310,000. But you see those other charts up there, those other brackets? Those taxes go up over time. I said one of my experts, or one of the people I talked to, and myself, I believe the tax rates are going to go up. And I believe that 25% bracket in a few years' time could be as high as 40. One guy says 63%. Well, let's say that I'm right and he's wrong, and now your $1 million, now you're going to owe to the government $390,000. And you only keep $600,000. Was I a good steward of my money? As a CEO, my point in all this is we need to minimize the negative effect of the bank. We need to optimize the positive things of the bank. We need to eliminate bad debt. We need to maximize and optimize and use the good debt for our own benefit. We need to have a profit and loss statement. We need to make sure and see what our profit is every month. We need to eliminate waste. We need to create a rainy day account. We need to be pushing more money away for the future. But if you knew that in funding, just say I do all that. You do all that, you minimize the bank, you load up your accounts, you get a pay raise, you pay yourself first. Just your dumb luck. Tax rates jump up. What happens if that guy that I was just telling you about is right and the current 25% bracket goes to 63%? Well, look at how now they've got more of your money than you do. So as a good, effective CEO of my business, I can't just look at where things are today. I have to try to project out into the future. The reason I'm mindful of this is that our country has $17.7 trillion of debt, getting ready at the end of the month to jump over $18 trillion because the new budget is coming out, maybe up as much as $19 trillion. And how do you think they're going to pay that back? The Money School normally lasts 30 minutes, and I'm there right now. We recorded this. My talking points revamping really quickly. Be careful about the taxes. Let's minimize the bank and the tax man. We want to pay them their fair share, but we don't want to pay them any more than that. But in the future, let me go back and hit a couple of these things. I just want to make sure that you're turning a profit in your business. Now there it is. Give me 1 second. I want to hit a couple of these slides just for those of you that came in late. Not that one. Turn a profit. You need to look at what your profit is every month. When you get a routine down, this will be a slam dunk. You'll start paying cash for cars. You'll start traveling first class if it makes sense to do that, and you'll have more money than you ever thought to have. If you fail to do this, you're risking your future. I encourage you to get a budget. I encourage you to have a set monthly board of directors meeting between yourself and your spouse, or just yourself if you're an individual. And I encourage you to look at your life as though it's a CEO. You want to be a successful CEO, not one that would get fired. So I'm going to stop it at that. This session is going to be recorded. Next month, I'm going to go into really how to build a tax-free retirement. And if you're not focused on that now and you're maxing out your 401k, I've got so many people come in to see me right now with maxed out 401ks and IRAs, some even having millions of dollars in them, some even having hundreds of thousands. But people are now going, hey, I put too much money in there. I too believe that tax rates are going up, and I need to start exiting that strategy. I need to develop an exit strategy. Well, you're still working. It's better to offset and plan ahead, and I encourage you to do that. Guys, I appreciate the time. I appreciate you guys joining us here tonight. I'm going to end the call with that. Be careful out there. The stock market is due for a correction. That's probably a 10 to 20%, but I believe, and many others could believe, it could be nastier than that. Well, I might be wrong, might be right. I don't know. We're due for something. History tells us something. Typically, October is a nasty month. Be careful with your money, and if we could do anything for you, call our office, 877-313-4080. And if you want to see Money School 101 or 201 and now 301. 301 will be posted in the next couple of days. You can go back and watch these things at your own leisure. Share these things with those people you know and love, because this country is messed up, and I'm on a mission to get people out of debt and point them in the right direction. Guys, thank you for your time. Have a great night. Have a great week. Be blessed. Be safe. We'll talk to you soon. Good night.